Hello, welcome back. Tonight's Monday Nitro, October 2nd, 1995, comes to us live from Denver, Colorado, the Denver Coliseum with 9,000 in attendance. It would score a rating of 2.5, actually tying Raw that evening in the head-to-head matchup. We have some dark matches to go through before we get to the main show. Here we go. Brian Pillman would defeat the Disco Inferno. The Dungeon of Doom, represented by Ming and the Shark, would get a victory over Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the Renegade, former TV champion. In a WCW World Television title match, the champion, Diamond Dallas Page, would defeat the challenger, Alex Wright, Das Wunderkind. Let's get on with the main card. We have 4 big matches for you this evening, including a WCW World Tag Team title match with your current champions, the American Males. Plus, if you remember last week, we have Lex Luger facing off against Macho Man, and if Luger loses, he leaves WCW for good. And he just got here like a month ago. That's going to wrap it up for me here. Now it's time for the show. Let's send it out to the Denver Coliseum, Denver, Colorado, with Eric Bischoff, Steve Mongo McMichael, and Bobby the Brain Heenan. And Pepe. Beautiful skyline at dusk. Denver, Colorado. We go to the Denver Coliseum with 9,000 in attendance, and we're about to see the pyros, the trademark of Nitro, go off before we see our announce team. And Bobby the Brain Heenan seems particularly excited tonight as we see Mongo has Pepe with some googly eyes, but don't take the attention off Heenan.
Do we have a Monday Nitro tonight?
That's right, as Eric Bischoff gets ready to run through all the action on the card this evening, including Luger versus Savage, Flair versus Double A, and Mongo, you kind of keep your eyes on the left side of the screen as you're facing it, because here comes the Nature Boy, getting ready to call out Double A, Arn Anderson, in anticipation of their match tonight. And Flair says, you're about to join the Mile High Club, or something to that effect, because it's Ric Flair. Bobby the Brain Heenan again, particularly amused.
Thank you.
Bischoff says anything can happen on Nitro. We go to a video highlight package focusing in on Lex Luger and Macho Man and their conflict leading into their match this week, where if Lex Luger is defeated, he has to leave WCW for good. We see Macho Man in the chaos that went down following his match, Giant choke slamming him. Of course, Luger came down to the ring to stand over the prone body of Macho Man, only to have the Dungeon of Doom turn on him, and the Giant hit him with the big choke slam. But now it's time to head down to the ring for our opening contest on Nitro. Lex Luger versus Macho Man Randy Savage. If Lex Luger loses, he has to leave WCW for good. Lex Luger making his way to the ring first out of Chicago, Illinois. Takes some time, even though there's high stakes, stops on the ramp. Of course, he's got to hit his signature poses for the crowd. And the crowd responds to Luger. They have gotten used to Luger. Luger has been around WCW for a long time, even though he went and did that brief stint in WWF. He's back. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, though, you know who it is. Always a fan favorite, the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Ooh, yeah. And you talk about a fan favorite. The crowd always popped big for Macho. And his outfits in WCW were so outlandish. I really loved his over-the-top look with the coordinating coats, tights and cowboy hats and glasses. Very colorful. And gets in the ring, though. Intense stare down with Luger. Even though this is the opening match on the card, just the build to this, the stakes of it, gave it a real big match feel. And honestly, a match like this, not a bad way to start off a Nitro. So let's get this match started. These two Titans lock up early in the match, and during their lockup, they tumble to the floor, and they continue this stalemate back and forth during a commercial break until the show comes back on the air. Lex Luger also has a very creative block of a backslide by using the ropes, employing the rope, akin to Luger's match with Hulk Hogan the previous month on Nitro. This doesn't give away a lot, and each man gets to go through a few of their, signature spots before there's a big ref bump, and Macho Man hits his flying elbow smash and appears to get the pin, but again, the Giant runs in, he hits the choke slam on Savage, and Lex Luger picks up the prone Macho Man puts him in the torture rack, and goes over, keeps his job in WCW. Ladies and gentlemen, here's your winner of the opening contest of WCW Monday Nitro, Lex Luger. This Saturday on Superstation TBS, we'll see Brian Pillman and the Enforcer Arn Anderson in action against Bunkhouse Buck and Dirty Dick Slater. We'll find out why Mark Merrow missed his title opportunity against Sting last Saturday night. Also in action, Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus Big Bubba Rogers, 6:05 Eastern, Superstation TBS. Back at the broadcast position, our announce team is pontificating on why the Giant is there in the arena, why he did what he did to Macho Man Randy Savage. Eric Bischoff asked the question, why didn't he go after Lex Luger? Bobby the Brain Heenan says everybody should get in their hotel rooms, put the dresser in front of the door and hide because the Giant ain't there to eat popcorn. And ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our next match as we hear some strange music play. Let's go down to the entryway and figure out what the heck is going on. We hear the music hit, and he's so cocky, he's so cool, he's just a disco dancing fool. Disco Inferno is on the ramp and dancing to his heart's content until Eddie Guerrero, who's scheduled to face off with Dean Malenko next, stares Disco down, and that's enough to make him get off the ramp as he looks puzzled and leaves. Eddie Guerrero initially debuted with WCW in 1989, then he'd return in 91 with a dark match at Wrestle War in a tag team contest. So this stint in WCW was right after his full-time return to the company, and we'll get to see his upward trend as his star rises. His opponent, Dean Malenko, also a second-generation talent, would of course be following in the footsteps of his father, Boris Malenko, who portrayed a Russian heel in Florida during the 1960s. He wrestled in Japan and Mexico as a tag team with his brother Joe, and would go on to get some recognition in ECW in 94 and 95 with some knockout matches against Too Cold Scorpio as well as Eddie Guerrero over the promotion's TV title. Match starts out with a collar and elbow tie-up. Malenko backs Guerrero into the corner, goes for a clean break, puts his hands on Guerrero's chest. Guerrero pushes Malenko. Malenko rolls, flips back to his feet, back to the fighting position, leading to a test of strength engaged in by Guerrero and Malenko, leading to Guerrero literally bending Malenko over backwards. Guerrero goes airborne as he tries to pin Dean. Dean flips him over. Eddie lands on his feet, back to a collar and elbow tie-up as both men make their way to their feet, which leads to some standing switch. Front face lock by Malenko, reversed into an arm bar. Hammerlock by Guerrero. Reverse standing switch by Malenko, which would be a theme. There was a couple standing switches back and forth here. Little chain, well, a lot of chain showed off by these two as they are technically sound, proficient, exemplary workers. Irish whip, drop down, flip, shoulder tackle spot ends with Guerrero getting leveled by a drop kick, but Dean getting whipped into the corner. Eddie charges in. Dean tries to reverse into a flip pinfall. Reversed by Eddie. Dean reverses, and Eddie levels him with a clothesline. Right after that sequence, we cut to a double screen to see the arriving limo of Hulk Hogan. Jimmy Hart greets him, and this does not do this match any favors given these two are newcomers. So we get a couple minutes of Jimmy Hart trying to convince Hulk Hogan not to confront the Giant later tonight. Eddie goes upstairs, misses the frog splash, counters with a victory roll, which ends up being the end of the match as we can see the sequence right here. Referee Nick Patrick, the 3 count. Here is your winner, Eddie Guerrero. And these two have a great display of sportsmanship after the match. Dean walks over, talks to Eddie. They shake hands. Once again, Eddie Guerrero winner. Ready for this segment, folks? Because Mean Gene Okerlund is set to interview the immortal Hulk Hogan, who is still wearing the neck brace as a result of what happened at Fall Brawl at the hands of the Giant. He talks about a young fan who has a double lung transplant, says he's going to rip the Giant apart in the locker room, but doesn't go back to the locker room after the interview segment's over, goes around the guardrail, slapping hands, gets powdered in the face by an old woman who hits Jimmy Hart with a cane in the back, then proceeds to beat Hogan down with the cane, throw him in the ring, then keep levying the beat down in the ring. We know this is Kevin Sullivan dressed like an old woman. Here comes Zodiac and the Giant, the Dungeon of Doom, bad intentions on their mind. Giant rips off the neck brace of Hulk Hogan as Zodiac and Sullivan cheer him on. Here goes the same thing at Fall Brawl. Twist the neck. Then Kevin Sullivan, the dastardly one, starts shaving off the signature mustache. Buff Bagwell tries to make his way in the ring, gets swatted like a jump shot by Dikembe Mutombo. Riggs eats a chokeslam. Bagwell gets in, squares up with the Giant, and guess what happens, folks? Yep, Buff Bagwell eats a chokeslam. Brian Knobbs comes in, punches Giant in the face, and guess what's going to happen to Knobbs? He's going to go up and go down with the chokeslam. So does Jerry Sags. promo for Halloween Havoc, and let's get ready for our main event, shall we? Main event time, and here comes the Nature Boy Ric Flair, set for his grudge match with Arn Anderson, a rematch from Fall Brawl, as Flair makes his way to the ring, and auspiciously Arn Anderson gets a jobber entrance as he's already in the ring waiting for Flair, and here we go, the two tie up, and this match was more of a brawl than anything else. It was not the scientific type match mixed with the brawling aspects that they had at the aforementioned Fall Brawl match. A lot of punches, a lot of kicks, a lot of just down and dirty, grimy brawling during the course of this match as Flair drops Anderson with a punch, then comes back with a chop and Irish whip spot, big back body drop. Arn goes to work on the arm, of course. Flair quickly gets the advantage back as he works Anderson into the corner with some chops, lines up that right hand right to Arn Anderson's face. Flair loads up another Irish whip spot on Anderson, which ends up being countered by Arn, turned into a spine buster, but he doesn't go for the pinfall as this leads right into the double down. And it's odd that he didn't go for a pinfall here as that's a setup move, but he goes to an arm bar instead. Flair gets Arn in position, loads up the figure four, which this is where the match gets muddled as Brian Pillman comes down just as Anderson taps out. You see Pillman on the corner, Nick Patrick signaling for the bell. Pillman, Arn's already tapped, hits Flair with the body splash, and then the two go to work on Flair. They just put the beat down on him here. Pillman choking Flair out, holding his arms, Arn dropping knees to the rib cage. The beatdown continues until referee Nick Patrick gets things separated and tosses Anderson and Pillman out. And here's your winner by disqualification, Ric Flair. We find our way back to the broadcast booth, and Bischoff, Heenan, and Mongo are talking about Ric Flair versus Arn in the cage next week. Then we get a promo. What's coming up next week on Nitro, live from the Rosemont in Illinois. Chicago, we get Sting versus the Shark. We get Sabu versus Mr. JL. Also, Big Bubba Rogers versus Road Warrior Hawk. Bischoff says that's all next week on the #1 program on Monday night, WCW Monday Nitro. We'll see you guys next week.
Get your own.
Take that, you bitch!
Oh, what the hell?
How'd you like that?
Hey, joke's on you. I have hepatitis.
Boom! Ah, good